नमस्कार, आप सभी का स्वागत है हमारी खास पेशकश में। मुश्किल में अनिल अंबानी कुछ ही देर में अनिल अंबानी एक प्रेस कॉन्फ्रेंस करने वाले हैं। रिलायंस कम्युनिकेशन की जो वित्तीय स्थिति है उसको लेकर एक रोड मैप जारी करेंगे और उस रोड मैप में साफ होगा कि अब कंपनी किस तरह का रुख रखने वाली है आने वाले समय में। एक बड़े डेट के अंडर में अभी कंपनी है, करीब 44,000 करोड़ रुपए का डेट है। इस बीच प्रेस कॉन्फ्रेंस की शुरुआत वहां पर अनिल अंबानी की पहुंचने की तस्वीरें आप देख पा रहे हैं। एक बड़े अंतराल के बाद, एक बड़े अवधि के बाद, लंबे समय के बाद अनिल अंबानी जो है वो एक प्रेस कॉन्फ्रेंस करने जा रहे हैं। खास तौर से रिलायंस कम्युनिकेशन, जिसके लिए जो बड़ा ट्रबल है वो है 44,000 करोड़ रुपए का डेट। किस तरह से इस डेट को ईज आउट किया जाएगा, क्या आगे का स्ट्रक्चर होगा, आगे की रूपरेखा कैसे बनेगी, एसडीआर प्रोसेस कैसे इनिशिएट किया जाएगा, और साथ साथ इस 44,000 करोड़ रुपए में से जो 15,000 करोड़ रुपए का विदेशी कर्ज है उसको कंपनी कैसे वर्कआउट करेगी। तमाम सहयोगी मेरे साथ मौजूद हैं। मनोज धारा इनफैक्ट वहीं पे मौजूद हैं। मनोज, अभी कुछ देर पहले तस्वीर हमने देखी अनिल अंबानी के वहां पहुंचने को लेकर, कुछ ही देर में मीडिया ब्रीफिंग शुरू होने वाली है। किस तरह की उम्मीद है, किस तरह की अटकलें वहां पर लगाई जा रही हैं?
बिल्कुल सुमित, जैसे आपको पता है कि यहाँ पे आज लेंडर्स की जो मीट हुई थी, यहाँ पे लास्टली एक रिलीफ सॉर्ट ऑफ मिल सकता है यहाँ पे लेके, बिकॉज दे हैव आस्क्ड फॉर एडिशनल टाइम ऑफ 7 months एज वेल। और यहाँ पे लेकर जैसे आपको तो पता ही है, यहाँ पर जो टावर एसेट्स को लेकर जो लगभग 11,000 odd करोड़ का जो उनका एसेट्स है, और उसके बाद में एसएल के साथ में मर्जर के बाद में रफली अराउंड 14,000 odd करोड़ का जो डेट है वो ट्रांसफर हो जाएगा। तो मोटा मोटी एक लार्जर कंसर्न ऑन द डेट ये मर्जर के बाद में कंप्लीट हो जाएगा, और टावर सेल एसेट्स के बाद में will go away. That is likely to happen somewhere in September. ऐसा भी माना जा रहा है कि यहाँ पे लेकर आज की जो प्रेस कॉन्फ्रेंस हो रही है सुमित, that will likely address जो माउंटिंग डेट को लेकर एक लार्जर कंसर्न है। शेयर होल्डर वैल्यू का जो एक क्रैश देखने मिला है, और इनफैक्ट यहाँ पे लेकर स्विफ्ट प्रोसेस ऑफ कम्युनिकेशन भी यहाँ पे लेकर देखा जाएगा। और यहाँ पे लेकर अभी जैसे आप देख रहे हैं कि लेफ्ट में हमारे राइट में यहाँ पर अनिल अंबानी साहब आए हैं, प्रेस कॉन्फ्रेंस को एड्रेस करेंगे अभी थोड़ी देर में, एंड यू विल कम टू नो इन सम टाइम कि यहाँ पे लेकर लार्जर आउटलुक कंपनी का कैसा है, और यहाँ पे लेकर डेट रिडक्शन का प्रोसेस क्या है।
इस बीच अनिल अंबानी प्रेस कॉन्फ्रेंस शुरुआत करते हुए आपको सुनवाते हैं।
Santa Cruz, I want to thank all of you for coming here at short notice. For you, I'm sure some of you may have faced some traffic, so some of your colleagues are yet to join, but we are going to begin. We don't want to keep people who have already come here waiting. The format of what we are going to do today is I'll have my colleague Puneet Garg to make a brief presentation to cover the telecom sector, the current status of that, and then get into Reliance Communications, our businesses, and as we end, I will talk about the way forward. Post that, we will have an opportunity for a Q&A session. We will divide the Q&A into two parts. One is to take telecom industry specific questions, so that is first put out of the way, and then second is to take RCom or Reliance Communication related questions that have not yet been answered based on both Puneet's presentation and my comments. So I don't mind, it may be repetitive, but I'll be happy to interact and answer. We are going to naturally, as all of you are here for Reliance Communications in the telecom sector, we're going to restrict this discussion and the Q&A only to the telecom sector. I'm sure we will have another opportunity, and our AGMs are scheduled at the end of this month. So I'm sure we'll have another opportunity to talk about each of the companies and each of the progresses that the companies are making. So let me first start by inviting my colleague Puneet Garg to start his presentation, and then I will join back. Thank you so much. Puneet.
Thank you, Mr. Ambani. Good evening, everyone. In today's presentation, as Mr. Ambani said in the agenda, we will cover the challenges faced by telecom sector itself and briefly cover Arcom business, and then the strategic initiatives which we have initiated over last 2 years to reduce our debt, and of course after that Mr. Ambani will summarize it. Next. So if we look at the telecom penetration and growth, that has been directly correlating with the GDP growth of the country and success of citizens of India on the world map. In India specifically is a big contribution of telecom growth itself, coupled with IT. And all of you know that that all has been possible with 10 lakh crores of investment over last 15 to 20 years in telecom. And of course, one of the highest number of employment generated by this sector after IT, which is 40 lakhs people are today employed in telecom, directly and indirectly with the telecom company and in the ecosystem. And of course, telecom sector has been contributing almost 1.3 lakh crore to national exchequer annually. If we really look at today that, while we have done so well, what has happened to this sector and, what is the current status of this sector, and I'm sure that you guys have heard and read and have been given with many numbers. Some talk about 5 lakh crore of debt, some talk about 8 lakh crore of debt, and we ourselves has been analyzing, and we put forward in front of you that what is the jigsaw puzzle of 5 lakh crore or 8 lakh crore, which number is actually correct out of that. So I think on top of it, when you look at it, it talks about 3 distinct category. There is a debt of which you call is a bank borrowing, whether Indian and overseas, which is around 2,80,000 crore, and we have also DOT spectrum liability, which everyone has purchased between 2012 to 2016, and that today stands at 2,95,000 crore. And that number probably looks familiar to you because one of the letter of DOT secretary, which all of you have provided us, showed 3,08,000 crore, but 13,000 crore out of that was paid off by the operators in the month of March as the spectrum was due. So the net today due is 2,95,000 crore. The liabilities in form of vendor financing and the bondholders, which is the debentures and bonds which we have raised in the domestic market and internationally, also stands at 2 lakh crore, which actually doesn't figure out anywhere when you look at the bank borrowing and the plus the DOT. But if you just look at the DOT and bank borrowing, that today stands at 5,61,000 crore, and you would see that repeatedly because that everyone talks about. So if you really look at it, the gap for that is huge in terms of servicing. So 8 lakh crore is not easy to service, and so why there is a stress in the industry? So I think if you look at the analyst reports and the credit rating reports, everyone reflected for FY17, we just got over, that the revenue would be 2,53,000 crore against the revenue of financial year 16 of 2,33,000 crore. But as a matter of fact, that revenue dipped to 2,10,000 crore. So actually, one should not look, there is a gap of just 23,000 crore, which is like 15, 20. Actual gap is actually 43,000 crore in terms of revenue, which against the projection where it should have been in terms of the normal growth which it has witnessed over the years, and with the data revolution it should have seen, it has not seen. Similarly, on EBITDA, the projections were for sector 78,000 crore. Where we actually ended up here is not not 12,000 crore less, but actually 25,000 crore less. So what this is doing, so this all has happened. This all has happened and is, I would say the hyper competitive or fiercely competitive activities which started in September. As always happens, a challenger gives always a disruptive tariff, but everyone responded to that. Of course, free for free. The discount on your current tariff cannot compete with free. Only free can, compete with free. So everyone came to that. As a result of that, everyone's, so unlimited free voice for lifetime and, data which was selling until then 250 rupees per GB actually ended up as 3 rupees per GB. You're paying, if you look at the offer, as low as 309 rupees for 90 GB or 103 rupees per month for 30 GB. So which is, inclusive of taxes, net of that is 90 bucks, so it's 3 rupees. So, which if you look at is 250, 99% discounting over this period has taken place. So if you really look at it, between the second quarter and third and fourth quarter, there is a dip of almost 40% in the data realization rate, and there is almost a dip of 25% on the voice realization rate. And that is stabilizing today, but that has caused the huge downfall on the EBITDA for everyone. In addition to that, if you really look at it, this has resulted in the government revenue also going lower, which is almost lower by 10-12,000 crore for government, what they have got over the years, or in comparison of 16 and 17. And I would say it is, the phrase is true that the good money is chasing the bad money. When you look at the return on investment is less than 2% today, it is better to keep that money in the fixed deposit or savings deposit, which will earn you more, rather than taking risk in telecom sector. And as I said, this is one of the biggest employer after IT. So we are talking about here that it is biggest employer. Will it increase? Employment going to increase as the 4G and on annual you have 5G? My answer is that probably you saw some of the articles on it that as consolidation some jobs will go, but the fact is last year quietly telecom industry actually reduced 10,000 jobs, and with the ongoing stress you always have to look at the cost points, and you always have to shave off them wherever you can. So you would end up reducing 30 to 40,000 more jobs in current year. If we look at the impact on Government of India, and we all saw the auction in August 2016, where we all saw that the 60%, or I would say 90% of the spectrum which was offered unsold. Today we have almost like 2,500 megahertz of spectrum lying with government unsold, which I would say if you look at the 5 lakh crore is very much required for the Indian economy to boost the economy, but that is what the opportunity which government is losing. So basically operators have no money to participate in any auctions, and operators have no money even if the word would say that 5G is knocking at your door to invest into the 5G, unless and until something is done, because you have seen there is only a crisis. What are analysts saying about that? So if you look at it, Fitch, ICRA, CRISIL, Moody, all are negative about this sector today, and they all believe that the intense price competition is going to remain for rest of the year. So if we really look at, I think everyone gives a solution or a masala for the telecom crisis, that consolidation has to take place in telecom crisis to overcome that crisis. But, is that the solution? And what is left for the consolidation? In 2008, we used to have 14 players. And if we looked at 2016-17, pretty much we are today talking about 6 players only. So the market has reduced from 14 players to just 6 players. And, So someone may say, no, we still have 10 to 12 players, but they all are in process of consolidating themselves to create a 6-player market. And if you look at any developed market, you would typically find 4 to 5 players over there. Of course, in most of the markets, you don't have a government player. Here you have a government player. So including that, it is 6 players. Otherwise, it's just a 5-player market. And I would say in that one is a new entrant, which has just entered in and haven't completed even a year. Why this market is shrinking? The question is the economic viability of the market is not that great. And that is why most of the MNs, the global operators are exiting. So none of the global operator would exist in this market after Vodafone and Idea merger, because Docomo has recently sold its stake to Tata Teleservices and already exited Indian market. India is, we are still living in the era of license Raj, or I should say in the 2012, when we used to have the administrative allocated spectrum, or in other words, when we used to get for 1600 crore nationwide startup spectrum, and on subscriber basis, we used to get the add-on spectrum. So in 1600 crore, pretty much everyone was getting a nationwide, 5 megahertz, 8 megahertz as they required in each of the circle. And we have defined the tax regime and so-called the revenue share formula back in 99-2000 during the transition, and we have lived through that. While today, the spectrum is auction. Everyone is buying at the market determined rate. But we pay so-called revenue share and taxes is still in the old era. And that is why I call it, this is the sector which is paying the highest amount of tax. And if you really look at it, it's not 33%. If I add the component of the spectrum, which you are doing it, you actually are paying almost 43% of your revenue as tax to the government. In comparison, if you really look at the developed economy or the similar economies across the world, you are paying just half of that. So this sector is certainly heavily burdened by the tax, and it's a high time that government looks at the rationalization of tax on the telecom sector. So much so that if we really look at in last 6-8 months, the average realization per minute is 40 paisa for telecom operators. 29 paisa out of that we pay as part of taxes and to others. So what is retention by a telecom operator is just 11 paisa. And if you look at it, is that the right number? And I think when we talk about the free voice minute, we call about unlimited, lifetime free, that has a cost. For subscriber, it is free, but when an operator terminates on other operator, let's say Reliance terminating on Airtel and Voda, it is still cost 14 paisa per minute. Digs a big hole in our pocket. So what all of that is doing to the sector? So if you really look at the EBITDA, as we were talking about last year, which was in 15-16, it was, 16-17, it was 53,000 crore. And in the current year, as per the rating agency's analysis, it is estimated to be 43,000 crore. So a further dip. But I think what is important on that you look at the outflows. So outflow on 2,60,000 crore. If you look at the interest rate, even at 10.5%, that comes to 27,000 crore. If you look at the repayment of the loans, an average tenure of the loan is always less than 5 years. It's not more than 5 years. So if you look at 20% of that 2,60,000 crore, it's safe to assume that 50,000 crore minimum, I would guess that more like 60,000 crore per year has to be done as the repayment obligation. There is a spectrum deferred charges which has to be paid to DOT, 20,000 in this year. This will go up to 28,000 crore in next year, which is increasing year by year. And of course, CAPEX, if you reasonably assume, which is the maintenance CAPEX, which is the regular CAPEX to upgrade the network, to complete your 4G footprint for most of the operators, or layout of fiber or additional towers to meet the requirement. 65,000 is a low figure, which industry has been spending more than that on average in last 3 or 4 years. So if you really look at that, the total expenses come to somewhere close to 1,70,000 crore, 75,000 crore. Minus that the EBITDA, you have a real gap of 1,20,000 crores. And if you really look at it, the debt to EBITDA ratio of everyone, you will find it here a bit different than what you have been used to in terms of reading that. You may actually think that why it is high, because here the way we have done it is we have added the DOT liability along with the interest, and we have calculated everyone on the same reference. So no one is done. So this is how it looks like today. So where is the capability of investing further? And that is what it justifies. Even when you look at it, Vodafone, they have impaired their assets, and they got $7 billion of investment last year to come to 5.5. Other they would be probably the highest in this this thing. So to overcome that, in March 2017, Government of India constituted a inter-ministerial group to assess the telecom sector stress, and to submit its recommendation in 3 months. Industry so far have had meetings with, I would say, 101 with those members, and they consistently has given some of the submissions. I have some of those submissions for you so that you can have a look at. So what industry has requested? Industry has requested that DOT levies, which are in form of AGR, and spectrum usage charges, that DOT or Government of India should provide a 3 years moratorium on that, so that that can be available as a cash flow to the industry to bridge that gap. In addition to that, the spectrum related installments which are due, this year 20,000, next year 28,000, they should provide a moratorium for 3 years on that. Similarly, on service tax and GST, which is increasing, going from current 15 to 18%, government should consider providing a 3 years moratorium on that as well. And I think what you would not know, but like to tell you that all the DOT spectrum installments today carry interest rate of SBI PLR, which is not charged by anyone. So the industry has requested that to be brought down and reset every year as SBI base rate. Given that, there would be some relief to the industry with that. In the next one, industry has also said on the policy related some of the benefits, and TRAI has consistently recommended to DOT and Government of India in this. So it is not just industry is asking to implement some of the recommendations which TRAI has made over the last 5 years repeatedly, where the license fee need to be brought down from 8% to 5%, which is basically nothing. The USO fund is not doing anything. It's not playing any role. So simply saying that cut the USO fund to 0 and make that 8%, which is inclusive of USO, to 5%. The spectrum usage charges, they have consistently recommended since 2012, should be made as flat 1%, but it has not been done. Hopefully they would do it now. And the spectrum deferred charges, which means the installments which we pay should be coterminous with the life of spectrum, which means the spectrum is given for 20 years. It should be, they should give the installments for 20 years. TRAI has recommended that. DOT just need to adopt and implement that. And last one, but the most important, is the mobile termination charge. TRAI in 2015 implemented fixed line to fixed line, no termination charge. Fixed line to mobile, no termination charge. Mobile to fixed line, no termination charge. The only termination charge which is paid is mobile to mobile, 14 paisa. Why should that exist when it's a regime of lifetime voice free? So the request is to make it 0. It may not be of the all operators, but most of them have requested. And last one is a request to the banks, since the Ministry of Finance and the Department of Financial Services is participating over there, that 5/25 scheme of RBI is there for some time, but has not been adopted by bank for the telecom sector. In infrastructure sector, they do adopt for power and steel, but not for telecom. So request is that it should be implemented. Long-term tenure should be given because the gestation period of the telecom is higher. Of course, on ECB, you all know in December 2015, RBI changed the norms of that, and under the new norms, it is 10-year minimum tenure, or the cost has to be same or lower, or the average tenure has to be higher than that. In a stressed sector, who would give you lower than that? It got to be the higher. So the relaxation which industry is demanding, and why it is coming, because in 2010, the spectrum were not treated as collateral by the banks. So everyone had gone to the, I would say international lenders and borrowed money over there. They all are maturing now. So when we need the refinancing of that, we need this relaxation in today's time. So these are the largely requests of the industry. Of course, today DOT has intimated the formal meeting with the full IMG of industry is happening on 12th of June, and that is when everyone, and of course banks, etc., would also be making presentation, and they would then recommend their immediate steps which they need to take, and of course they will take some time to actually come back that the policy interventions which is required in a bold way to help the telecom sector. And I would say it's not a help. Actually, that is all rationalizing the irrational behavior which has persisted over last few years. The regime has changed, but the taxation has not changed. We'll talk about now on the RCOM and take you through that, where we are today as we stand in RCOM. I'm sure that you all are fully updated on that. And so number one is our wireless business, where we have approximately 85 million customers providing 4G, services pan-India, and of course 2G and 3G, which is a capex light model for us. Tower business, where we have 43,000 tower, our fiber business with 192,000 kilometer, IDC and enterprise with the long-term contracts. So is our GCX, which is our global business, and DTH with 5 million, and prime real estate in Navi Mumbai and Delhi, and a lot of other places. Some of the key indicators for Reliance, as on 31st, the net assets of company are around 72,000 crores. The spectrum which company holds values today around 20,000 crore, and net worth of company still is 27,500 crores. And RCOM directly and indirectly provides employment to over 70,000 persons across India. Some of the, little more snapshot and KPIs of our wireless business, which all of you are very familiar. So this is what we're doing in tower business. Next. So our towers are actually capable of 4 tenancies and more, but currently we have around 1.7 tenancies per tower. That means many more tenancies we can get, and monetization opportunity does exist in all of our towers. Some of the recap of some of our other businesses, which is fiber business, enterprise and IDC business, GCX, DTH and consumer broadband business, and of course real estate. So time to talk about some of our journey of strategic transformation drivers here. And if we really talk about that, we started our journey of strategic transformation program in 2015, and some of you would remember that in 2015 we signed our first term sheet of tower. So it started beginning from there, but we took some concrete step as well at that time in terms of signing some of the other deals. But our whole of the strategic initiative is for deleveraging the company, providing the competitive edge to the company, and making it sustainable operations with profitability. We have faced some of the challenges in last 1.5 years, and those challenges have been in form of in eastern circles, where the 900 megahertz spectrum in 2015 went at inordinately high prices, and RCom at that time made a wise decision not to bid for it or buy that spectrum. But we entered into these circles for an ICR arrangement with Vodafone. Continuity of that at a high cost, if you today in the free regime, is not something one would like to, but of course that got replaced or that got getting migrated now to 4G as the adoption of 4G has increased. So as all of you know, that last year in beginning of 2016 we liberalized our spectrum of 800 megahertz, which was administrative allocated spectrum. We paid a liberalization fee of 7,000 crore to make it a 4G compliant spectrum. So that's a 4G spectrum we have. In order to free up for the 4G, we migrated these CDMA customers to our 4G network, and this enabled us to do sharing with Jio and create a pan-India 4G network for our customers. So most of the customers today opting for 4G and moving to that network, and that has actually really kick-started all of our initiatives for overall business optimization. So our strategic merger of SSTL was the first initiative towards the that journey. Of course, tie up with Jio. One for the monetization, another for the sharing trading, and third is our strategic sale of wireless business to Aircel, and of course, which we announced in December 16, is a strategic sale of tower assets to Brookfield, Canada. So our rationale for SSTL is very simple, that in the 8 circles we have listed here, the spectrum is expiring in 2021. We acquired the spectrum from SSTL, which will give us 12 years of additional life up to 2033. If we would have waited until 2021 to expire and buy from the auction, we would have spent equivalent money over there, over 12,000 crore in terms of the present value of that money, what we would have spent in. So we would have spent much more over there. And today, when we have acquired that spectrum, the net value in the market today, based on the auction 2016, is 7,500 crore. Where are we on this particular? So we have received all the approvals for SSTL, and the final NOC from DOT is awaited. Provisional approval they've given, which we need to complete the formalities in next few weeks. We expect this transaction to close by 30 June. It took longer time than expected because we had, I would say, UFOs, unidentified flying objects, in form of one shareholder delaying this by 9 months, and from February 2016 to October 2016, delaying the whole process. Luckily now with the NCLT process, that process becomes smoother, and hopefully we may not have any more UFOs now. We can only hope for it. Our second, transformation or the initiative is a strategic tie-up with Jio. And when you look at Jio, I think all of you know on the tower monetization and intercity and intracity fiber, what is most important here is that if we have 43,000 tower, today Jio network works on 150,000 tower. That means the additional 1 lakh tower which they hold, I have reciprocal right to access that without spending any capex. And on same terms on which they have taken from me, I can take that. So if I need to expand my network in those areas, those towers are available to me. Similarly, in intercity and intracity fiber, we have 192,000 kilometer, and Jio has done today about 1 lakh of kilometer, and they plan to do another 1 lakh of kilometer. So I would have access, and as the 4G and 5G is going on, you require fiber to each tower because you require more and more bandwidth and higher speeds. I have access at the same terms on a reciprocal basis to all of that, while all other operators at the marketplace has to spend huge capex, and you hear that in all the quarterly report that how many new towers have come in and how many route kilometers they have done. So we do not have to spend. So for us, it's a capex light and opex light model as far as tower and that is concerned. So when we liberalize our spectrum of 4G, Jio did not have in pan-India spectrum on 800 megahertz. We traded some of that spectrum. Of course, it helped us in liberalization, but it enabled the sharing between us, because then we both had the 800 liberalized spectrum, which actually helped us in launching pan-India 4G network and providing access to our subscribers. More so, what we gained out of that, we gained is significantly in terms of time to deploy, which is 3 years. We also gained 20,000 rupees, which we would have spent on capex to launch this network. We not only have access to Jio's 800, but through the ICR arrangement, we also have access to their 1800 megahertz and 2300 megahertz to offer the similar speeds and better customer experience to our customers. Now we move on to our activities later in 2016. So our we are creating with this initiative independent wireless company, which is a pure play wireless company focused in India and only India as the territory for that, and creating I would say a third ranked I would say by RMS as well as CMS in India. So it would become one of the third largest company in terms of customers and RMS with 180 million customer at close. Even in this hyper competitive market or fiercely fought market at the marketplace, the company still would be able to realize 20,000 crore of synergy value, which is the NPV over 10 years. The spectrum value which it would have, which it would contain at close together of Aircel plus RCom plus SSTL would be 28,500 crore. So one of the rationale for us for the 2G spectrum is that Aircel spectrum is valid until 2026. So it gives us additional longevity of 5 years. In exchange of combining this, RCom would receive 50% stake, and the new company would be known as Aircom. Where are we on this transaction? We have received a stock exchange, CCI, and shareholder approvals. We are, of course, working with the lenders to get their consent for the transaction. And our NCLT next date is on 28th of June. And the DOT approval process has started, which would be granted to us after the NCLT approval is received. We are working hard to ensure we close on or before 30th of September. Tower transaction with Brookfield Canada would help us in reducing our debt further by 11,000 crore, would also create a pure play tower company, and RCom would enjoy, in addition to reducing its debt, a 49% potential economic upside, which we would be able to monetize after 3 years, either by sale to Brookfield or someone else, or through the listing process. Where are we? All the required approvals have been received, including the DOT, which is in form of IP1 and corporate registration. We are waiting for the lenders approval and NCLT, which the next hearing date is on 28th of June. Again, we are expecting this transaction also to close on or before 30th of September. So with completion of these two transactions, there would be reduction of 60% of debt of the company. From 45,000 crore, we would come to 20,000 crore. And company has, is working on plans to further deleverage and service the balance sheet through various initiatives. Strategic sale of our DTH business. We are also looking of a strategic transaction for our global business, which is GCX, global enterprise and India enterprise, of course, coupled with data center. Monetization of our real estate, which is prime real estate in Delhi, and of course 130 acres in Navi Mumbai, DAKC. And of course, in addition to that, we always have the opportunity of monetizing our 49% of stake in Tower, which for 51% of what we are selling now, we're getting 11,000 crore. So there is a huge upside available there. And of course, our, also option of 50% stake in Aircom monetization in full or in part in future, if it is required, though we consider it to be very, very valuable. So what would be remaining after this in, Arcom group post this transaction? So we would have, as you have seen earlier, the enterprise and IDC business, which has long-term customer contracts, which are very stable in the revenues. We have also fiber business, which has very long-term contracts and, is sticky in terms of nature. So this company, when you look at, is sitting on some of the prime, businesses which have very high EBITDA margin, and revenue is growing, consistently, and provides you a stable cash flows out of the remaining business, which is more like, annuity business. With this, I would say that, so what is our way forward at Arcom? And now I would like to invite my chairman, Mr. Anil Ambani.